The Lord be with you.
And with your spirit.
A reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Jesus said to the crowds, "When you see a cloud looming up in the west, you say at once that rain is coming, and so it does. And when the wind is from the south, you say it will be hot, and it is. Hypocrites, you know how to interpret the face of the earth and the sky. How is it you do not know how to interpret these things? Why not judge for yourselves what is right? For example, when you go to court with your opponent, try to settle with him on the way, or he may drag you before the judge, and the judge hand you over to the bailiff, and the bailiff have you thrown into prison. I tell you, you will not get out till you have paid the very last penny." The Gospel of the Lord.
Praise to you, Lord Jesus Christ.
So people find it very difficult in the Gospel to interpret the signs of the time. At the time of Jesus, the people were expecting a Messiah, and the prophets had talked about the coming of the Messiah King. And they were signs that they gave to the people that, when you see these signs, you would know that this is pointing to the Messiah. The prophet Isaiah was very instrumental in that. In Isaiah chapter 61, it says that the Spirit of the Lord will be upon him. He will bring good tidings to the poor. He will open the eyes of the blind. He will set the captives free. He will bring liberty to those who are in bondage. And when Jesus came, he came to his hometown in Nazareth in Luke's Gospel, chapter 4, verse 18. And he read the same passage. When he read that same passage, he said, "The Spirit of the Lord has been given to me to bring good tidings to the poor, to set the prisoners free, to open the eyes of the blind, to liberate those who are captives, and to declare a year of favor." And when he said that, he said, these words are being fulfilled to this day. They are being fulfilled today. And the people saw these signs in Jesus. They saw the ministry that he had. He was healing the blind. He was setting people free from their bondages. Those who were sick, he was able to heal them. He even raised those who had died from the dead, and did many other great things for people. He forgave the sins of people who were broken, people who had sinned, people who were living as sinners, and converted them. People saw this all happening, but they could not accept. They could not say that these are signs of the Messiah. And this is the background for which he is saying these words that we hear today. He says you can interpret the weather. You can see the wind, and then you are able to say that it's going to rain. But how is it that you cannot interpret the signs of the time? If we take these very words of Jesus, interpreting the sign of the time, and we put it to our own day, what will it imply? My dear brothers and sisters, we have just come through a very difficult time, not only for us, but for the rest of the world. Since 2020 till now, we had the COVID-19 that was the talk of those 2 years. Nothing has ever happened like that in my own history or in my own time. Maybe it happened some years ago, but I never saw something like that. The people even thought this is the end of the world. Thank God we have come through that. But something that we must learn from this is that all of us who are seated here were a possibility of death. Millions of people died. Nobody knew who was next. And all of us were potential dead people, because Many people who died is not because they did not protect themselves, it's not because they didn't do the things that we did, but because they're meant to die and they died. And now we are still alive. And what can we make out of that, out of those times, and all the things that have happened? Is that there is a reason for why we are still alive. There is a reason. It's not because God hated the people who died and He loved us more. No, God loves all of us the same. God has no favorites. But if we are alive, then there is a reason. And this is important that we read the signs of the time and find out what is the reason why I was spared. I'm just taking an example of COVID. What is the reason why I was spared? And Jesus goes on with this gospel and He says, no, you must judge for yourselves what is right. And He says, gives an example. He says, for example, when you go to court with your opponent, you must make peace. It's so important that we must also begin to look into ourselves and begin to see, are there people that I have to settle disputes with? Is there a brother of mine, a sister of mine that I need to be reconciled with? And the time to do that is now, because we have been given that chance, and we must read that sign. If there is a forgiveness that we have to do, then we must do it now. If we have to love each other, then the time is now. If we have to be generous and show kindness to a brother or a sister, the time is now. But above that, Jesus talks about two opponents. You are going with an opponent to court, that you must be reconciled with him. He does not say your opponent should be reconciled with you. He says, no, you must be reconciled with him. So it's one-sided. We have to do the reconciliation. In other words, our sinfulness, our weaknesses make us opponents of God. They make us opposed to God. And Jesus says that since we still have the time, we must be reconciled with God. We must make sure we go for confession. We must keep a renewed life all the time, a renewed spiritual life all the time. We must make sure we are reconciled with God. Otherwise, He says you'll be put to jail and you'll not get out until you have paid the last penny. In other words, we have a chance to live, and we must make great use of this time that we have. We must be reconciled with each other. We must be reconciled with God. This is the greatest of the signs that we must read and make out of this time, especially after, thank God, everything has passed by. There are a lot of things that we can bring in, a lot of things that are happening in the world that we could bring into this reflection. But I just want us to stay with that, because all of us experience that. And it's so important that we make use of the grace that God has given us, of the gifts of life that God has given to us. And we must celebrate it. But even as we celebrate it, we must make the best out of the life that we have. It is a short time. It is a short life. And somebody just told me 2 days ago that there is just little time, that we don't even have time to waste hating other people. Don't spend your time gossiping about other people, because there's really no time. Don't spend time or waste time hating people, or waste time not forgiving others, or waste time not loving people, because we don't have really the time. So let us make this time investing in great things, the things that God has promised us in the gospel. We must spend this time loving each other, being kind to each other, be reconciled with God and with one another. And let us therefore ask God during this Eucharistic celebration that even as we endure, even as we wait patiently, even as we continue to do the things of this life and serving people, and in our work, in our schools, in everything that we do, we must make sure that we continue to be reconciled with our brothers and sisters, and be reconciled with God.